Since the success, I mean, it's something I don't think people would really, people would use the word compromise about you very often.
No, I haven't. And because of that, it's why my show is on Bravo, on cable, and not on NBC or Fox as it was, because I wouldn't compromise. They told me to take things off that I wouldn't do. Mr. Murdoch himself, when we were on Fox, said no more stories about Newt Gingrich because he had just done a book deal with him for $4 million. I refused to participate in that. No amount of money that can be offered to me, and believe me, they were offering me a lot of money at Fox to do that show. No amount of money can get me to change my mind. I mean, I cannot be bought simply because I have no interest in it. There's nothing it can do for me. I went to the seminary to be a Catholic priest in high school. You know, I mean, that has not left me. The people that were my heroes, the Cesar Chavez's, the Martin Luther Kings, the Berrigan brothers, you know, these are people who were heavy influences on me as a young person and continue to this day. So, so no, I haven't compromised. But let me tell you, the good side of that is that by not doing that, we have millions and millions of fans across the country. So that when I write a book like Downsize This, it becomes a bestseller. In spite of whatever publisher may not want to publish it, you know, somebody wants to make money off it, they're going to publish it, and it does well because I haven't compromised, because I've stayed true to who I am.
Do you have limits? Is there a subject you wouldn't tackle or something you wouldn't go after?
The mafia, I'd leave them alone. Yeah, I've always had the mob, anything to do.
We're not gonna,
no.
We shouldn't expect to see Guido and me in the near future.
No, you're not going to see Guido and me or anything that involves the sanitation department in any local community here in Flint. No. It's a joke. Okay. But seriously, no. Do I have limits? Well, I have my own limits of good taste. I mean, but you know, I sat down with the staff of our show, The Awful Truth, and I said, you know what I want to do this year? I want to go those places where television is usually afraid to go. Let's see if we can tackle with humor and satire those issues that people are nervous about. And so we made a list of these things, you know, that we're nervous talking about race in this country. We're nervous talking about gays or AIDS or things like that. You know, what can we do with those issues? And so on the show, you know, we decided we came up with some brilliant things, I think, where people are going to go, wow, that is risky television. That is pretty dangerous. And yet it won't offend you we're not here to gross you out or just to be, you know, just to do this, you know, for a laugh. You know, we're doing this because we care about these issues. So I think when you see the show, you're going to see that, this is what I'll guarantee you. Whether you agree or disagree with what you're going to see or what I'm going to present to you, you will agree that you have not seen this anywhere on television before. And I do all of that without having to use nudity or violence or unnecessary language. So the risks I take don't involve the cheap and easy way to get the R rating. The things I'm going to put out there are ideas that might feel uncomfortable, but maybe we should think about.
It sounds like a public television show.
It's a perfect public television show. In fact, I was just saying after Channel 28 so graciously offered to air this series to the people of this area who have not been able to see The Awful Truth, we've been talking back in New York about, you know what, you know, maybe I shouldn't probably tell, Bravo's not going to see the show, are they, all right?
No.
Okay. Because I really am thinking about going to PBS, to the network, and saying, you know, this really belongs on PBS. This is the kind of PBS show, really, that I grew up with when we were watching PBS as kids, and before FUM even existed.
Well, you go back, yeah.
I mean, really, back in the 60s and 70s.
You go back to the Great American Dream Machine.
Well, that is one of the shows that's an inspiration to The Awful Truth. I mean, if anyone remembers that show, you will see a lot of the. Yeah, well, or if you remember watching public television, or when it was called NET, or you know, whatever. You know, Flint actually, I believe, was the last major large-sized city to get a public television station. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we essentially grew up without this in Flint, having to pull in 56 from Detroit or 19 from, is it 19 in East Lansing and 21, or 23 in East Lansing and 19 from Delta. So no, this is an excellent PBS show.
That's good to hear. And, you know, PBS's new theme this year is Stay Curious. And certainly that's the kind of in some respects, as you describe what you've gone out to look for, that's exactly what we're talking about here in The Awful Truth. Be a little more specific. What are we going to see through this fall?
You're going to see a competition on the show between Jeb Bush and George Bush to see who can execute the most inmates on death row. And we set it up like Monday Night Football, but it's all nonfiction, though. This is the key thing you have to remember about The Awful Truth. Even though there's going to be humor and satire, everything you see is real. It's not sketch comedy. So we send our correspondent down to death row executions in Florida and Texas, taking cheerleaders and marching bands and joining the already happy group that's there to cheer on the execution of another human being. And you know, you have the governor of Florida, Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, the governor of Texas is George Bush, and they're both trying to see how many they can execute. It's of course, this is very dark comedy, right. Because it's really about a very serious issue. On the first show, we have the presidential mosh pit, where we challenge the presidential candidates back during the primary to jump in our mosh pit of like 100 young people, where you dive in and just kind of let yourself go. Any presidential candidate who would do that, we said, we will endorse you for president. So we chased the candidates all around Iowa and New Hampshire during the primaries. It's a very, very funny piece. We have another thing called Pistol Pete, a big mascot for children that we try to give to the NRA so that they can encourage kids to really enjoy guns and how important it is to own a gun, because the NRA is a big supporter of us all being very armed. We're running a potted plant for Congress on the show. There are over 100 congressional seats where there is no opposition to the incumbent. He's just going right back in without anybody else's name on the ballot in what I call a Soviet-style election. They only need one candidate. It's like, this is America. And literally, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 of our congressmen, they just go right back in with no opposition. 98% of all incumbents are returned. So we thought, well, why don't we put something on the ballot, at least, if we can't get a human to run, let's get a potted plant. So we run a potted plant for Congress. Those are some of the funny things we do. There's some very serious things on the show. We visit a Holiday Inn in Minneapolis where a group of Mexican immigrants who entered the country illegally a few years ago, but they're housekeepers at this Holiday Inn, they formed a union. And once they formed the union, the manager, knowing that they were illegals, called the INS to have them deported as punishment for starting the union. So we take up their cause and try to get the INS to not deport them back to Mexico. We look at the public defender system in this country. We look at corporate crime on the show. We have Newt Gingrich was getting married for the 3rd time this year, so we have a wedding registry that we've set up for him of things that we thought would be appropriate gifts for him. So we, the show is kind of all over the place like that, but it's truly, it's some of our best work, and I'm so proud of it. And I can't encourage people enough to check it out, because when you say that the PBS model this year is stay curious, the one reaction I guarantee that people will have while they're watching this is that somewhere during the half hour of the show, they're going to shout to somebody else in the other room, "Get in here, watch this! Come here, you're not going to believe this!" That is the feeling you will have, that we are getting away with this on television, that this is really happening, that this congressman is really saying this, that this corporate leader is actually doing this with Micheal Moore. You won't believe what you're going to see.
Did you have, what kind of problems did you have?
Well, the biggest problem I have now is that once they see me coming, they run. I'm going, no, don't run away. I can't catch you to begin with. Well, come back.
What about the other way? Do you have people trying to get on?
No. Nobody wants to come on, which is good. Which is good. They should not want to be part of what we're up to.
I should say, too, that we need, you've thanked us for being able to bring it to the people of Southeast Michigan, but at the same time, I need to thank Bravo, because they have been very kind to make this available to us, and there may be another season in the works?
Yes, I think they've offered a 3rd season of the show. We're deciding right now whether or not to do it. Bravo's been very great. I'm sorry that they not carried on Comcast here locally. They were offered the show, Comcast was, and chose not to run it. So the fact that 28 would step in and air this on a broadcast network, where whether you have cable or not, you can see 28, which is really great. Very wide area in southeastern Michigan here. My hat is off to you for airing this, and for, it's the only thing I've done that has not been available to the people of the Genesee County area, so it's very important to me that this has happened, and I'm truly grateful.